Credit cards. Are they one of the most dangerous, scary, screw your financial, well-being up things? Or are they a smart tool to help you leverage your money and increase your credit score? Now, I have some opinions on what I think about credit cards. And if you are not a well-disciplined person and you do not have a good financial plan and you have bad financial literacy, then in my opinion, you need to run from credit cards, because here's what's going to happen. See, they're going to take your money like this, right? They're going to take all this cash from you, and they're going to figure out a way to get that out of your pocket and into their pocket. And why is that? Like we talked about on the previous episode, it's because they send you these damn things in the mail every month, right? They don't know anything about you, or they know very little about you. And their goal is to dig in your pockets, to figure out a way to get you in debt, and to me, figure out a way for you to overspend money that you don't have. So credit cards do have some pros, and we'll talk about the pros. But I think for most people and many people, credit cards are one of the top ways that absolutely screws up your finances, screws up your budget, screws up your spending. And I don't want to hear about travel points and cash backs and all these other things. I don't know anyone who got wealthy or got to a position of financial freedom using cash rewards or any sort of credit card game that they play with you. Because there's a reason why. If you pay attention and you drive around your car, you watch TV, there's a million advertisements, stadiums named after credit card companies. It's a disaster. So you do not want to play this game and not know what you're doing, okay? So why are credit card companies bad? One, the interest rates on credit cards are absolutely insane. I did some research on this, and an average credit card now is pushing towards 22%. I recently talked to one of my friends who's trying to get out of his credit card debt, had 2 credit cards. Luckily, the balances weren't overly big, and they were 30 and 31% interest. You are never going to get in a financial situation when you're paying that kind of interest. That is damn near payday loan type interest rates. You just can't do that kind of stuff. And so what that means is for every $1,000 worth of balance, if you're paying a 22% interest rate, you're paying $220 a year to carry that balance onto a credit card. And most people, when you go look at their credit card statements, I'm sure there's the occasional person that's buying food and groceries and really is having a hard time getting by. I get it. I feel for you if you're having trouble getting by. But most people that dramatically overspend get hundreds of thousands of dollars in a credit card debt, they did so, and most of them couldn't even tell you what they spent their money on. They couldn't tell you what they did, couldn't tell you how they got there. And it's just something you have to be really careful about, okay? The other thing that they want you to understand is they want you to pay that minimum balance every month. So it's just like everything else. The car payment, the minimum balance on the credit card, the minimum balance on the boat payment, trying to figure out how to put my vacation on a credit card. They want you to put that on there, and they want you to pay the minimum balances. We just did a video talking about how if you had a $2,500 credit card balance and you were paying 20% interest on it and you just made the minimum payments, it would literally take you 15 years or just under 15 years, and you would pay almost triple. It would be almost $7,500 to get that $2,500 paid off. And that is just crazy town for people. You just can't do it, okay? So the other thing, and this is where I kind of agree with Dave Ramsey on this one, and people will try to deny this one, is if you have a credit card, it's just having too much ability to overspend. And even for someone like myself, I pay my credit card balance off in full every single month. But that doesn't mean, because I have that credit card with me, that on occasion, I don't overspend. I buy something I don't need. I spend money on food going out I don't need to have. I don't always perfectly pay attention to these things. And it is very easy to overspend because you have temptation. I always reference money and finance back to food. And my problem is like when I eat at home, I eat great. For the most part, I eat really, really healthy and good when I'm at home. But when I go out, you can ask my girlfriend, when I go out to eat, she's really good at ordering healthy food. I'm really good at doing it at home, but I fall off the wagon every time we go to a restaurant and I eat terrible stuff. As far as it tastes good, I love doing it, but it is not the best for my health and it is easy for me to fall off the wagon. And this is the same thing with credit cards. That temptation is there. It is in your pocket all the time. And because of that, it is easy to then go overspend people. And studies show. So I don't know exactly where I got this number. It probably was a Dave Ramsey number since I pull a lot of Dave's information, but studies show people will spend 12 to 18% more when using a credit card versus cash. And it's funny because if I go through a drive-through, if I go almost anywhere, even if you're buying coffee, even if you're spending $2, $5, $7, people are always using their credit card or their debit card versus paying for it in cash. I love to use cash. And the thing about it is when you use cash, you feel the spending. You feel the pain of actually digging in your wallet, putting that money out there. It's a trick I use with my kids all the time, is they know if you're going to go buy something, a toy, something that is not an asset, that's not going to be an investment, that's not going to bring you long-term value, whether it's clothes, eating out, when you're going to do stuff like that, you should spend cash because you want to feel the pain of actually spending it. And it goes right into what I call mental stress, where it's like, if you carry a lot of debt, whether it's car loans, student loans, credit cards, the anxiety, the mental stress, the mental brain power you use all the time thinking about these things is not worth what we're going to talk about. For me, there are some good things about credit cards, but to me, the bad far outweighs the good. And whenever you hear somebody talking about these things, they're going to talk about what I'm about to talk about next. And it's the kind of positive pro things about credit cards. And so the first ones are, they can be good for very disciplined people. I'm a very disciplined person with my money and finance. Do I have credit cards? Absolutely. I use them for business expenses. I use them for business travel. It makes it a lot easier for me to track my budget because then I know where my money's coming in and out of. And it does build up a credit history. But you only need a credit history so you can borrow money. And for me, borrowing money means buying a house to live in, buying investment property. So it's just getting mortgages. And so if you've got a really good credit score, yes, it's easier to get a mortgage. Yes, you're going to get a better interest rate on those things. And so it does make sense that you want to have a good credit score, but you don't want to have a good credit score at the expense of overspending and just getting ridiculous with your money, okay? Now, let's go back to the rewards and the points and the cashback. And I know people that play the credit card game that'll have 6, 8, 10, 12 credit cards. Some people are really good and disciplined about this and figure out a way to kind of work that system. I would just say if you spent that time and energy and effort trying to figure out how to increase your income and make a bunch more money, it'd be a lot more beneficial than trying to win at the credit card, the credit card finance game. So that just is what it is. And I don't know anyone that ever got wealthy trying to play the credit card game. It just doesn't work for me, okay? Now, one of the things that you will hear people say, and this is a true thing, is that you get fraud protection. It's a lot easier to say, I'm going to spend someone else's money. I am protected. So if I got some sort of fraudulent activity on my account, rather than using a debit card and having that money coming straight from my checking account. That is why I use credit cards. I like the protection. I like to be able to track my expenses that way. And it's a lot easier to have a dispute or to be able to reach out in an emergency situation and, reach out to that credit card company than it is sometimes reaching out to your bank, because sometimes the banks, their hours of operation aren't quite the same as maybe a credit card company. So all that kind of stuff, disputes, those kind of things, that is to me, one of the big benefits of having a credit card. It is definitely an easier way to deal with that kind of stuff. And emergency access. So at the beginning, when we're trying to win this game, and like we talk about all the time, we're trying to get ourselves out of debt. So at the beginning, when you do have a car loan and student loans and maybe multiple credit cards, and you're trying to get to the point you need to get to, it is nice. This is sort of, unfortunately, your initial emergency fund, because if some emergency happens, you're going to end up swiping back on your credit card. And again, people fall off the wagon. I talked about with food, right? I fall off the wagon. This isn't going to be a perfect, get rich, quick, fix it scheme. But you want to be very cautious and careful that you're not saying something's an emergency or saying something's a necessity and it really isn't. And now you're, jumping right back on the treadmill and you just turned up the volume again, you turned up the speed. And so you got to be really careful with that. So here is the bottom line, okay? When we're comparing credit cards and debit cards, credit cards, the metaphor I'm going with is they're like power tools, okay? I don't use power tools. My son is amazing with power tools. And because he's skilled and knows how to use power tools, they're a huge benefit to him. But if you use credit cards and you're not financially literate and you don't understand how they work and you don't understand how the game is played, you're going to get crushed. So you can help you to get somewhere, but more times than not, and this is why most people are in debt, they will crush your finances. So you do not want to be untrained. It's like me with power tools. If my son gives me the power tools, it is a disaster. I don't know what I'm doing with them. I don't know how to use them. And it's just going to be a problem. So if you're someone who struggles with credit cards and credit card debts, Here's what I would say you got to do. You got to cut up the cards. You got to try to pay them off as quickly as possible. And we got to rebuild your financial foundation. Now, if you want to go watch the video I just did talking about the dangers of credit cards or you have credit card debts, here's what I would tell you. Whatever the minimum payment is, you got to find a way to pay double, triple, quadruple. So if that minimum payment's $50, you got to find a way to pay $100, $150, $200 a month so we can get that thing gone immediately. And again, it's listing out all the balances, listing out all the interest rates, and you can attack them a couple different ways. You can go after the higher rate first. You can go after the smallest balance first to try to get yourself a win and say, I paid one of these things off. And you'll be debt-free, especially from credit card debt, a lot quicker than you think. And usually, credit card debt is that highest interest rate. It's usually higher than a car. It's usually higher than a student loan. And so, no, that's why I always tell people to attack that first, because typically it's the highest interest rate on that stuff. So with all that being said, when you start to see advertisements on the radio, like for example, I was driving on the car here to the office before I was making this video and they were talking about SoFi will do a debt consolidation loan, right? They will take multiple credit cards and potentially even personal loans and credit card debts and multiple things and lock them all into one loan, okay? They say they're paying off your debts. They're not. But if you can get all your debts locked into one loan at a lower rate and then get disciplined to pay that off faster, that can be a good tool. But trust me, companies like SoFi are not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're not doing this. What they're hoping is that maybe they're willing to take a little bit lower interest rate, but that you'll just keep making minimum payments. You'll just keep paying all this stuff off slowly, so they can win. But basically what they're doing is they're saying, hey, someone's paying 30% interest on some debts and they're a good payer. Hell, I'll buy that debt from them, charge them 20% on those debts, and then they're still making great money on their end. So they're not doing it out of the goodness of your heart. And a lot of times you're not learning the lesson of, how did I get here in the first place? Why did I overspend? How did I end up in so much debt? And again, a lot of times it's just too nice a car, too nice a house, overspending your budget, and just spending money on things you don't need. And it goes back to that discipline word where I know people say, you just got to have good systems and discipline isn't going to work long-term. It has to work long-term. So whether it is your health and nutrition, whether it is money and finance, if you're not disciplined, you're not going to win. And again, we all fall off the wagon. So if you have questions about any of this kind of stuff, reach out to me, DM me. Hopefully this helps you understand the pros and cons of credit cards. There are way more negatives than positives unless you are crazy, super disciplined. I have never paid 1 cent of interest on a credit card my whole life, but I probably have on occasion overspent on my credit cards. So with that being said, hopefully that's all for you. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Please follow. Please share this information. And there's going to be a lot more ideas coming out there. And if you have questions or content you want to hear, send me a message. I'll happily try to do a video on a question that you have that hopefully will be helpful for you. And again, as always, I appreciate watching and checking in the Complete Money Playbook.